Good morning. My name is Malahat Nasibova. I am from Azerbaijan. Dear guests, I will speak in Azeri. Ben inanıram ki herkesin kulakçığı yanındadır ve beni dinleyecektir.
I hope you can all turn on your headsets to listen to me.
Azerbaycan'dan gelmişim.
I am from Azerbaijan, to be more specific, from Azerbaijan's inseparable region of the Autonomous Republic of Nakhchivan. Actually, there are many of you in this hall who know about Azerbaijan. However, I think it would be interesting to inform you of the Azerbaijan of recent times. In my presentation, I hope to be able to tell you about those of us who are active under incredible conditions in Nakhchivan. For 75 years, Azerbaijan was under the slavery of the USSR. Later, like many other republics in the USSR, Azerbaijan also became independent. Some people think that this happened as a part of historic development. However, I think Azerbaijan's was a movement of awakening. People of Azerbaijan began their struggle for their independence. And now the same awakening is also beginning in Arab countries. Yet becoming independent does not mean that Azerbaijan is independent. We were freed from slavery of 75 years, but come and have a look if my country is indeed independent. I will not go into long explanations, but mention some small episodes that would explain to you the situation. For the last 20 years, Azerbaijan is under the rule of the same family. With the exception of the 1990 elections, 6 times the elections were not recognized by the international organizations as democratic. People are imprisoned because of their political views. They are followed. Journalists especially are followed because of their professional activities. They are imprisoned with various allegations. Students who ask for liberation of these journalists are expelled from schools. Organizations are expelled from their offices, and these include NDI, the American National Democratization Institute, and the Norwegian Human Rights House. The administration tries to restrict the activities of all democratic organizations. Nakhchivan is called the testing laboratory of Azerbaijan. That is to say, all actions contrary to human rights are first tested in Nakhchivan and then implemented in Baku and other parts of Azerbaijan. Geographically, Nakhchivan is located in a fairly strategic region. There are borders with 3 countries, namely Turkey, Iran, and Armenia. Due to Armenian-Azerbaijani conflict, Nakhchivan has been under blockade since 1989. In the past, it was possible to travel from Nakhchivan to Baku by road and by train, but now we have access to our capital only by plane. Nakhchivan is overlooked by the international fora as well as by the national government. This situation benefits the local authorities. That is, the region is administered by special rules. Nakhchivan is beautiful, it has lovely air, yet it is a place where human rights and justice are highly damaged. In short, the region is still run by customs that date back to Soviet times. Those who raise the voice of the people or those who ask for their social rights are beaten, subjected to psychological pressures, and even get shut up in mental asylums. Courts are turned into agencies of punishment of the local administration. I could not just watch all this. In 2002, I decided to resist them and to protect the rights of my people whose rights were ruthlessly violated. I decided to set up a center, resource center for the development of democracy and non-governmental organizations. I was aware of the fact that things were going to be fairly tough for me to be in the forefront in a region where certain mentality reigned and exerted a hegemony over women in particular. Yet someone had to show this courage. I was not alone. My husband Ilkar and many others were with me. For the first time, with a woman comrade, we created a non-governmental organization for the first time in Nakhchivan. The first of anything is highly difficult and painful. Even though one of the issues we aimed to tackle was to defend the rights of those whose rights were abused, another was to attract the attention of the international community as well as that of Azerbaijan leadership to the injustice prevalent in Nakhchivan. There has always been a certain amount of indifference on the part of the Azeri government in the affairs of the local autonomous government of Nakhchivan. I must here point out the fact that the administrators of the local autonomous government are close relatives of the Aliyev family. This also goes to show that in reality Azerbaijan is governed by a single family. In 2002 in Nakhchivan, there was no notion of NGOs, neither among public officers nor among people. The administration regarded us as anti-government organization. Our activities are highly troublesome. In 2002, it is so today. The negative attitude of the local administration as well as the attitudes of the regime of neighboring Iran and their helpers realized unbelievable conspiracies against us. The period was problematic because there was also a vacuum in the local media. They would not allow a free press to be active. The publishing organs that would voice people's problems or shed light to issues were almost non-existent. Only the pro-government media would exist. In order to fill this vacuum, we provided information to the independent media in Baku as well as to the international press. As a result, in 2003, we were fortunate to be able to fill this vacuum. I started as the regional correspondent of the internationally known Turan news agency. This gave me the opportunity to quickly deliver news to the regional and international community. Yet we were still looking for ways and means of conveying the issues to larger numbers of people and of attracting world's attention to Nakhchivan. The same year, I started to work as a reporter for the world-famous Radio Liberty, supported by the U.S. Congress. This was a big opportunity for our voice to be heard by larger numbers of people. Also, this was a kind of insurance against the pressures of the local administration. From that time on, I became an activist defending justice. I also began to work as a journalist, even though those activities may seem different from one another. For me, they formed the links of a chain. People with issues came to me as a journalist. We, that is, as someone illuminating a problem, and the citizen, as a person consulting a member of the press, are subjected to harassment of sovereign power. I here serve a parallel duty as a defender of law. At the same time, we're trying to defend those whose rights have been abused. Consequently, acting on two fronts show faster impact, and we can help these people sooner. This is an experience that has been tried. Pursuing two issues simultaneously leads to more people's applying to us. Yet all this angers the local authorities. Numerous times I've been subjected to physical pressure exerted by the directed individuals. Numerous times I was attacked personally. There were attacks on our home and office. They attempted various ways of deterring me from my course. In Nakhchivan, we now live the life of dissidents. The sovereign powers are trying to isolate us. They have pressured my relatives, friends, associates to stop interacting with us. Now, why am I sharing this with you? I think sometimes one person's fate tells enough for people to understand the situation in a country. Although we were first founded the Research Center in 2002, we were able to register with the Ministry of Justice after long legal battles and international support in 2004. As such, ours is the only NGO to actually register in Nakhchivan. Despite the many years that have passed in Nakhchivan, NGOs have serious problems with registration. Even though there are applications, NGOs confront artificially created problems. Since the courts are also under the monopoly of the executive power, the NGO applications are either not accepted at all or rejected on various grounds. In 2002, whether it was in the realm of journalism or in the realm of defendant justice, I had to deal with numerous court cases on unfounded issues. I faced fines from $40,000 to $12,000 in different times. All of these psychological pressures erasures are attempts to silence us. Thanks to the support of the international world, the unjustified court charges against me have been dropped. The complainers have always been the state officials. Four cases against me are at the moment at the European Court of Human Rights. I will provide you with just one example to show how unfounded the charges brought against me are. I am sure what seems ordinary to us in Nakhchivan will make you laugh and also amaze you. I traveled to many countries as a part of my activities. I was in the United States one time when I learned that there was a court case against me back home. The story was as follows. A journalist colleague prepared a piece of news on a disease prevalent among animals in Nakhchivan. The news was published through the information agency he worked for. The head of the veterinary services complained about the news. Without looking into the issue whether or not I had anything to do with it, the court sent me summons as well. Even though both the claimant and the journalist repeatedly said this issue had nothing to do with me, the judge, also the Chief Justice of the court, still supported the claim that I must be fined. When the judge later learned that I have no link to the case, he said to me, quote, even if the defendant refuses, even if you were not in Nakhchivan at the time, I believe that you have inspired the defendant to spread this news, end of quote. This is an example of the type of judges there are and the court rulings that exist in Azerbaijan. Mehmet Kurbanov from Nakhchivan, Ismail Madamov, blind in 2 eyes, resident of Sadek region of Nakhchivan, university graduate, 75-year-old Hussein Ismailov, and many others whose names I'm not mentioning here have been subjected to physical pressures because they wrote letters of complaint on issues related to not being able to exercise their ordinary social rights. Although they did not have any psychological problems, for days they were detained without any notification to their family members, hidden behind bars in a mental institution. It was only after long search and wide coverage in the press that it was possible to free them. Such mishaps are frequently encountered in Nakhchivan. Just because of attending a religious ceremony in the village of Bananyar, tens of local residents were detained and illegally sent to mental homes. All of these show that despite the fact that we live in the 21st century, the people of the region are punished in 18th or 19th century styles. People's religious beliefs are violated. We are very much in need of those who defend supremacy of law and defend people who operate individually. It is possible to face a variety of dangers at any given moment. Sometimes it seems to me that it is easier to work in areas of conflict than to work in our region. In conflict, it is possible to guess from where the opponent will come, but in the region where I work, it is not possible to know from where and how the tyrant will come. For example, as you're going somewhere, you can be a target of a group's attack. There can be sudden attacks on your home and your office. At any moment, without any notification, they can search your office or home and confiscate technical equipment or even your personal belongings. At any moment, your hands can be handcuffed and you could be sent to prison. I have lived through all of these instances. 2 years ago, my husband Nasibov was kidnapped and arrested, and without my presence or a lawyer, the court sentenced him. I did not know where he was. As I was looking for him at night, about 20 policemen wanted to enter and search my home. They threatened our 13-year-old daughter. She did not open the door but called me. I arrived and our home was searched and turned upside down in front of my children. Our computers, CDs, many documents, photographs, even my children's school materials were confiscated and taken from us without any receipt. Later, all these taken were destroyed. The same midnight, without notifying me or the office staff, our rented office was raided. Policemen broke down the door and took everything in the office. A day later, some of the things were brought back to the office unharmed. However, there is still no news of the rest of the things that were taken. Later, I found out that my husband, Ilgar Nasibov, was imprisoned because of violating honor and dignity. However, the most interesting thing was that the article mentioned as a violation of honor and dignity was not written by Ilgar Nasibov. Despite this fact, local authorities opened a criminal lawsuit and the prosecutor asked for 3 years sentence. This issue was immediately taken up by the press. International organizations also showed keen interest. We tried to prove his innocence. The executive power, who realized that everything would come out in the open, withdrew the accusation after 5 days. Currently, our complaint is at the European Court of Human Rights. To pressure us, the local authorities take measures that cannot be considered human. In the local newspapers on TVs were introduced as spies, enemies of Azerbaijani nation, or as traitors. Papers with such articles are distributed in the schools that my children attend. My children's grades are reduced in lessons and they are subjected to insults. Due to these pressures exerted on them, my daughter and son quit their university education and left the country. Now, I'm very worried about my third teenage daughter. But despite all these, I shall not quit. It is because I love the people of my country and I want them to live in a democratic country like you do. The people of my country deserve that. In Nakhchivan, cafes and other places are closed under the pretense of renovation. Local authorities take these measures so as to prevent people from gathering. Actually, it is prohibited for more than 3 or 4 people to meet together. I have witnessed many times how local activists are hidden under police custody and in some in mental asylums during the Nakhchivan visits of the country's president. There are also other activists who are kept under house arrest. All of these measures are taken because the administration fears people's talking to the country's president. I would like to show you a few pictures of what happens. You can see for yourself. This is a colleague who's been beaten by police. Another journalist, a colleague, and have been attacked. Aliyev, again, another colleague who's been beaten by the police. My husband is he gets the beating instead of me most of the times. These people, the 75-year-old Hakim, and he wrote a letter to the president, and he was put in an asylum, and his wife and son are waiting at the door of the asylum. We try to bring the international fora to take interest in Nakhchivan, and so that people come and see things for themselves. Here we have a Norwegian representative, and we try to meet with them and hold seminars. And in this video, when people ask for their rights, they are beaten and tortured. In Nakhchivan, there are no representatives of international organizations except the Turkish and Iranian consulates. As far as we know, various organizations have applied numerous times to open offices in Nakhchivan, but authorities have refused them. Similarly, the representatives of various embassies and international organizations have not been allowed to Nakhchivan. There was a case when a car with Norwegian American diplomats was attacked in Bananyar village, and the diplomats were expelled from Nakhchivan. All these go to show that Nakhchivan is indeed run by special unwritten rules. We have done a lot to bring all these issues to the attention of the international community. We try to include in their reports the situation in Nakhchivan. Despite difficulties, we have been partially successful. Several times we have attended sessions of the European Parliament, met with important figures, and exchanged views with the diplomatic delegations of various countries. Until the establishment of our organization, diplomatic corps or representatives of international organizations had seldom visited Nakhchivan. However, after the founding of our NGO, their visits to Nakhchivan became more frequent. This means that now the diplomatic corps is active in Azerbaijan, and the representatives of international organizations travel to the region. Together with the government representatives, they meet us to discuss the real situation in the region. This is a positive development. The data and facts reflected in our reports are often recorded in the reports of various international organizations. We have been able to bring about a series of important legislation. We have developed expertise in the mechanisms leading to the ratification of laws pertaining to courts, issues of corruption at higher education, migration, human rights, and the freedom of press. However, it is with regret that I say this. We currently work without an office. Due to the pressures exerted by local administration, no one wants to rent us an office. People are afraid. Time and again, we have been kicked out of offices we rented. The only solution is for us to own our office. Unfortunately, our organization does not have the financial means to do that. Last year, the Norwegian office of the Helsinki Committee printed a book called Nakhchivan, the Dark Island. My election as the Rafto laureate in 2009 opened a window for me and for Nakhchivan. To a certain extent, it guaranteed my safety as well as bringing Nakhchivan to the attention of the world. We are asked what needs to be done. I think we have to work harder. The international world should not suffice with only reports or statements. Most of the time, the authorities do not respond to such declarations. Sanctions should be implemented while it is still not too late. That is, before events similar to those in the Arab world begin to happen in Azerbaijan. Those organizations and companies which have economic interests in Azerbaijan, especially interests in oil and gas, should focus on social issues, including the development of democracy. History proves that in countries where there is no democracy, sustainable development is impossible and the stability is under constant danger. One should remember that political instability always causes human tragedy. What needs to be done in Nakhchivan? New projects need to be enacted without hesitation. We look for both moral and financial support from you. Being cautious in the region because the regime is harsh will only further its ferociousness. Please take into account that Nakhchivan's door to the international world is open thanks to our activities. Let us together turn Nakhchivan into a laboratory where the good traditions of the international world are implemented. Thank you very much for your attention.